So interview preparation of SOC. So I'll just basically start with the term. I always like to basically go from the basics part. So I'll just talk about SOC, right? Because people I have seen that they do have lots of misconception regarding the SOC. So what exactly the SOC is? We do know it as Security Operations Center. And what was there when SOC was not there? Exactly, right? SOC is something which everyone is hearing about these days a lot, right? Like people are getting job in SOC and there are lots of opening. Naukri itself, if you will check right now, just Google SOC jobs. So Naukri will be the one website if you are from India, which will be coming on top, which will be saying there are 5,000 plus jobs available into this particular part SOC, right? So what makes it that much special and why it's like one of the hottest sector to work in, so that's what we are going to talk about. But before that, why do we need SOC? That is one question. Before that also, there is one more question. What is SOC? Right? So let's try to understand it up over here. What is Security Operations Center? So let me just explain you all, right? So this trillion-dollar industry security, which is up over here, right? So let's try to understand this particular security up over here. I'll just showcase you all a small diagram up over here. Let's say, guys, this is a very rare diamond which I do have, right? And this is one diamond which I want to basically give security, as we say protection and all. So what I did was, in order to basically give the security to this particular diamond, I basically built a room in which I put this particular diamond. So do you guys think that just after building the room, the diamond is now secure? No, right? Of course not, because like just only building a room cannot basically secure it. There can be things like which can be there, due to which attackers can go inside and steal that diamond. So what I did was I do know that there was only room which is not sufficing. So I did basically build up a door, and on that door I just put up a small lock on that door. Now does it make sock secure? Sorry, diamond secure? Not really, right? So what I did was I again basically I do know that just one door basically cannot suffice. Maybe attackers can come from roof, right? Like we have seen lots of time in Bollywood movies and those Hollywood action movies where attackers are trying to basically steal something by coming directly from the roof, right? So what I did was I built up a door on roof also. And same way I put up the lock on that roof also. So now do you think that it is secure enough? Physical security required. That's great. So I do know that locks and doors can be bypassed, right? There are people who do have skills in order to bypass that particular lock or door, right? So what I did was I basically introduced a CCTV camera up over here, which is monitoring 24/7 within this particular part, right? A CCTV camera basically, which is outside the door as well, and which is inside the room as well, which is 24/7 monitoring this particular diamond. Now, do you think that it is secure? No one can steal it? No, right? Because CCTVs are more of, you can say, deterrent type of controls. They can do monitoring and they can discourage the people from not stealing it because they will get caught. But it cannot stop from anyone from doing it, right? It's not a preventive measure. So I did got to know about that part. So in order to basically work on that particular thing, what I did was I hired a security guard up over here who is standing outside this particular room and who is monitoring everyone who is coming inside for this particular room, right? Who is monitoring everyone who is coming inside this room. He is maintaining a register. In that register, he is basically writing all the people who are coming in, going out, all these particular part. Logs are being maintained now. We are collecting the logs. Secured or not? Still not, right? Still there are chances that someone can bypass the guard, someone can bypass the CCTVs, can bypass the lock, and still can steal the diamond, right? So as more preventive measure has been suggested in chat, so what I did was I built over here, I built up a fence. Now this fence is basically doing what? This fence is basically securing this particular area. It's an electric fence from, and it is covering from four of the sides. Can anyone steal it? People can, right? So now you see, we almost give 3 to 5 layers of security, but still there are chances that we are not that much secured. And on the other end, we are seeing that security as a field is 100% booming, right? From $1 million to $1 billion to $1 trillion industry it is as of now. So what makes security that much good that people are continuously investing it rather than knowing the fact that they cannot achieve security 100% ever, isn't it? Can someone achieve 100% security with a good budget and a good team? Can anyone be ever 100% secure? No, right? We cannot be 100% secure, but still we are basically working 24/7 and we are investing a lot of money. So what is the reason why people are investing so much inside this security field? Protect the assets. But the thing is, see over here, protect the assets is absolutely fine. But see, I did showed you an example that I tried my best with what budget, what options I was having, but still I was not able to 100% secure that thing. Then how it is? Absolutely, that's what I was looking for, minimizing the risk. So risk is guys always a factor, right? It's a factor which we can say it's acting as a probability. Everyone agrees to that risk is a probability or a likelihood. It might happen, it might not happen. So guys, if I remove every factor and this diamond is alone up over here, right? There are 100% chances anyone can come and anyone can attack and anyone can steal it. So what happened up over there was I actually, by increasing my security, I was trying to decrease the chances of attack. Yes or no? With every extra layer which we did provided in this particular part, from doors to locks to cameras to guard to fence, right? I am providing more and more security in order to reduce the risk, right? Decrease the chances of attack being successful. And that's where guys $1 trillion industry of security basically comes in, right? This $1 trillion security industry comes into this particular part where we are just investing in order to basically reduce our chances or reduce our impact of being getting attacked and losing all the data, all the things which we do have, right? So that's what basically makes security. So up over here with this particular part, security, yes, it's a protection, yes, it's like safety and everything. I can agree to that. But don't you think that security is always acting as a measure, additional measure to our existing controls? Does that suits the definition of security, right? It's always acting as an additional measure to our existing controls, right? We do have controls in place which are there to minimize the risk, which are there to secure us, makes security a bit more useful for us, right? Because we can reduce the chances of risk and it's an additional measure as we discussed right now, right? And with this additional measure, we are always trying to basically do certain things up over here. And how, okay, one more question before I do proceed with my next part. How I can put this additional measures into my real life. Now let's come to IT assets, IT scenarios, right? We do have PCI servers, lots of crown jewels are there, right? Like critical assets and lots of organizations data are there on stake, right? So how do we provide security? Since we do know that 100% prevention is not there. 100% prevention is not, cannot happen, right? So what is the next best good thing which we should do in order to secure ourselves more? Y- Since you do know that you cannot prevent yourself 100%. So what's the next best thing to basically go for? Transfer the risk. That means simply should I take a cyber insurance and I should sit simply idle? Not really, right? Because cyber insurance can give me my money back, but it cannot give me my reputation back in the market once lost, right? So don't you guys think that the next control, if you cannot prevent yourself 100%, what if I say you that I will give you the capability of detection, and by increasing that capability, you will be able to secure yourself more. Do you all agree to this? If I cannot prevent myself, what if I can detect on time? Because I do know that if I do detect on time, I will be able to respond on time, isn't it? And since I am able to respond on time, that is again a win-win situation. I'm trying to, it is working in order to reduce my risk. That's what security was doing, right? Decreasing the chances of getting attack being successful. So prevention cannot happen. So detection on time will be helping me to respond on time. Now, just the one thing is up over here, which I would like to add, this detection which you see, guys, right? So this detection which you see, how it can happen, and that was the term I was looking for, monitoring, right? I do know that if I do monitor better, and if I do monitor more, I will be always have the chances to detect on time, isn't it? So monitoring is one-stop solution which can help me to detect on time so that I can respond on time, right? And that's where Security Operations Center comes into the play and plays its role as a platform where we are 24/7 monitoring our environment, right? We are 24/7 monitoring our environment. For what reasons? So that we can detect on time, right? Absolutely. Tools like SIM basically do help you a lot, right? So 24/7 monitoring our environment basically will be giving us an overall picture, entire 360-degree view of infra, right? It will be giving us 360-degree view of infrastructure, right? And with this 360 degree of view of infrastructure, I will be able to see what is happening, when is happening, how is happening, right? And these days you have already seen that there's not even a single day which goes now that there is not new type of attack which has happened, right? Or maybe sometimes you do hear a new malware basically is being released, like a virus or some sort of trojan or malware, banking trojans, malwares, which is disrupting the normal functionality of the organization, right? And since it's disrupting the normal functionality of the organization, it is always basically important for us to monitor that particular changes which are new to us. Recently, you might have heard about there are lots of 0 days which have happened. Log4j was one, Spring for Shell was another. We do have this MSDT Folina was there, right? So lots of 0 days are happening. So our conventional tools, right? The tools which were we were having earlier, like our conventional tool, if I do name about any of your like signature based tools or rule based tools, they cannot detect unknown threats. They can only detect known threats. So one of the very much asked question in your SOC interviews is how to detect unknown threats. What are these options? Of course, we do know that we cannot detect every unknown threat, right? But how to, I would say, increase our chances. Whenever someone asks you in your SOC interview that how to detect unknown threats, so we can say that we cannot 100% detect unknown threats, but we can always increase our chances, right? Chances to detect unknown threats. So guys, there is always two types of fights, right? Which I would say that in order to answer this particular question in your SOC interviews, there's always two types of fight, which I always like to take as an example in my every session. So there is one fight where you do know your fighter against whom you are going to fight, right? So you will be knowing what sort of capabilities that person will be having, what sort of signature moves he will be having, what sort of weapons he will be using, what is the motivation of that particular person to win against you, right? So when you do have these things, and another scenario is where you do not know who is against whom you are going to fight. You are always in vague that someone will come, like you have to fight someone, but you do not know who will be there, what sort of profile of that fighter would be. So there is always a chance where you do know your opponent increases your chances, right, of fighting against them. Do you all agree? When you know your opponent, there are more increased chances that you will be better able to plan your defense. And this is where, guys, threat intel also comes into the picture. People generally do neglect it, but threat intel is one of the most crucial things which can help you in order to basically increase your chances or increase your coverage of detecting unknown threats, right? Of course, there are side roles which are going on continuously, like pen testing or threat hunting is also there, right? Threat modeling is of course support there. So there are like proactive approaches which are already there, but intel is something where, like, you should, there's one saying which I do remember, that you should know more about your enemy than yourself, right? So when you know more about your enemy, that means you will be able to find out if your enemy is basically anytime within your environment, right? So this is, guys, why we do need SOC, why SOC is important, right? You all do know that it's a 24/7 job. You have to work in shifts up over there, morning shift, day shift, night shift, right? And while you are working in this particular part, you always have to basically be on this proactive side, because generally people do relate that SOC is basically a incident response activity, because actually we are doing 90% of the time we are doing IR activities within SOC. A ticket is being raised, you sit on that ticket and you do basically respond to that ticket. So that's basically incident response, right? Which is a reactive approach. So rather than only focusing upon reactive approach within the SOC, if you try to build your profile towards the proactive side, towards learning how things can work beforehand the attack, it will be increasing your chances in order to basically get a good job in SOC, right? So that was, guys, like one thing which I wanted to basically pass on this particular message via this particular interview, via this particular webinar, that always try to plan your skills in such a way that it will be a plus for the organization. Every employee is a plus for the organization, but when your skill basically goes around into a particular specific area, it increases more of your chances, right? Now, guys, interview prep. What are the checkpoints which will be helping you to basically sit in interview and clear your interview, right? So what I'm going to do is, over here I'll just basically give you few pointers which I have noted that people generally do lack, so that they do not they basically do not get these particular things. Of course, like your CV is very important. People think that CV from your previous role basically would work. They do not update it. If you have watched this particular webinar, if you know one thing about threat intel, I would say add into your CV. Not, I'm saying faking it, but I'm saying that add into your CV that uh, threat intel, good understanding of threat intel, basic understanding of threat intel. So make your CV more crisp, I would say, and always try to add only technical and professional points into CV. So generally, what I've seen is people always do try to add more sort of points like habits, hobbies, and maybe status, married, unmarried, or I always see that they always try to write, I like to cook, I like to drive, I like to do these things. To be honest, that's not something which they are looking for, right? So add more technical and professional points. If you do one small lab on any online platform, on Try Hack Me or things like that, try to showcase those particular things, those skills which you have gained up over there, right? So that is something which up over there. So I would just write a no to personal details. It should never be there, to be honest, right? Always try to show your projects and skills. As I mentioned, you can use online practicing platforms and their badges. With every lab which you will be doing online, you will be earning badges. Try to add them in your CV. Showcase your skills. If you do have any certifications, try to add that, right? Try to add your presentation and soft skills up over there. That is not something which you will write that I do have a very good presentation skills. Try to make it reflect into your CV, right? And your soft skills basically will be always tested in your interviews, right? And one thing I would just basically write up over here that never basically add some words while you are giving the interviews. Like never try to add these type of words. This is from my personal experience. Uh, I always try to basically give straightforward answers, right? Always try to give straightforward answers in interview. I'll tell you one case, right? So I was basically interviewing a person who was trying to basically use more of your words like I assume or I think, these type of things. And to be honest, these are basically a demotivating factors for them. If you know the answers, try to give the answer. If you do not know the answer, try not to basically give that particular answer, right? So your interviewer is already knowing you that what sort of basically skill you do have, and he will be assessing you in starting 15 minutes of your interview. So never try to add these particular words, I assume, I think, or these kind of things, right? These are always a demotivating factor for your team. Sorry, for your interview. Sounds good, team. So I assume, I think, never like that, or I believe. There are lots of things which basically people do use up or there, which does not gives you a good impression, right? Now these were something which I would say were the part of profile building, right? What you should add. Then I would say try to add one more thing up here in profile building. Try to take the best use of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the most used platforms for professional connections, right? So try to basically take the advantage of your LinkedIn profiles and connects. If you do know a person who's already working in company, try to ask him in a good way. There are lots of people who try to basically help the people out up over there. So try to ask them what sort of work culture is there, what sort of things are going on. So you can plan your answers accordingly, and that's basically a benefit or a plus for you, right? Try to give your OS information, what sort of skills you do have on operating systems like Linux, if you do know, one of the most preferred operating system skills. Windows, again, one of the most preferred operating system skills. Not just limited to Windows, I do know how to use Windows. Try to explore Windows CLI, and trust me, I'm saying again, Windows CLI is one of the very good skills which you can have to showcase in your interview, right? Sys internal suite, that sort of things. CMD and PowerShell, those themselves are that much enough that can basically make you very strong in Windows. So try to basically go for that. Try to basically showcase your open source tools experience. Like you do have Zeek up over there, right? You do have like Wireshark kind of things. These are the tools which companies even do use, irrespective of whether they are open source or not. Wazoo is there, right? Or try to basically showcase your sim tool experience. I would say you should know every sim tool, but you should be master of one. One cannot learn everything. So try to basically showcase your sim tool experience. Few of the market leaders basically are like AZ Sentinel is there, right? Splunk is there, IBM Curadar is there. Apart from these, you do have. Chronicle, one of the Google's one, right? There can be lot of them, but I would just like to basically limit up over here so I can add few more points to your this particular part. So sim tool experience is must for applying a job in SOC. It is one of the must have experience. Splunk is open source. Like there's a community edition of not open source, but there's a community edition of Splunk and IBM QRadar, which is there in the market. So take the best use of it. For Azure Sentinel, you will get basically a trial version. So try to take best use of it, right? So these are like few of the good things. And I would say, guys, one thing which is I believe people might agree and might not agree, but later down the line, if you see yourself to work for more than 3 to 4 years in SOC, you should learn regex, learn regular expressions. It is going to help you a lot, to be honest, right? Learn regex up over there. I'll give you one website which I do have from where I did basically learn my regex. So I'll just basically paste that website's link up over here, and few of you might already know it. So I believe this is one good starting point to learn regex, and regex is something which is very deep diving. So try to basically use this particular one, regex1.com, a very good one. Not promoting them, but actually I learned myself regex from this particular website, right? So this is one thing. And guys, one more thing. Whenever an interview starts, right, you will see that first of all he will be asking you basic questions. So when the interviewer basic he or she maybe, so when the interview basically asks you the basic question, they're not expecting you to give the answers in 4 lines. Try to give the answer in 1 line if possible, if that is the correct answer, because the more time you will consume on the basics, he will be having very less time to basically assess you on the experience things, right? So, and as soon as you hear the word like scenario, so your interviewer, if he is interested in your profile, there's this particular point where he will ask you, take a scenario and tell me this particular answer. This type of lines he will 100% use. I've seen people who basically use more of these particular type of things, right? So always take a scenario and build up an example with your experience in real life, right? So build upon the real example, I would say, right? Always try to basically do so, right? So in these particular words which I mentioned, always avoid this. I think, I believe, assume, I would write one more word. People use a like a lot. Like I would say this is there, you know, these type of things are there in the market. Try to avoid these words. To be honest, you will see that if you do change this habit, you will see that it will be helping you a lot in your interview sessions. It depends kind of things, right? And when I do talk about your basics, try to basically learn in a very good understanding what is defense in depth, OSI model kind of thing. And these days, always try to basically explore yourself, right? These days, we do know that there is a new model which is there in the market, zero trust model. Verify everything. So, as the name suggests, zero trust model. Earlier, we were using defense in depth, like a layered security kind of thing, and still we are using it. I'm not denying that. No, we are not. Nowadays, we are not using it. But now there is one more new thing that is known as zero trust model. So that says that every step, every chance, never trust anyone. Always try to verify every sort of entities, every sort of changes, every sort of request, right? So that is something which you should learn, right? So always try to basically, my agenda is to say up over here, always try to basically explore current technology in the market. Always try to do so. It will help you a lot. Because what people generally I've seen is they do lack of having experience. No, I would say people have experience, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year. But what people do lack is of research. There are lots of things on internet, and I would not say that go follow me on YouTube or follow this particular person on YouTube or LinkedIn or anywhere or Twitter. No, internet is a very open community, and there are lots of people. Even a person who does not have a name might someday tell you some good points which can help you, right? So always try to basically look for internet to help you as a best researcher, right? So the more you will Google around, the better you will know how to Google and get the results, the better your research skills will go on, right? And apart from it, team, one more thing which I would like to highlight, Apura, I've seen lots of my students, my clients, and people over LinkedIn or social communities try to always ask me, can you give me a list of SOC interview questions? And to be honest, I have that, right? I do have like 300 question, 500 question, 1000 questions. But it does not works always from those interview questions, right? That can give you the idea. And if you do have an interview which you are trying to prepare within a month's time or within 15 days, it does not works, to be honest. So if you directly get SOC interview questions, yes, it can be helpful to you, but to a certain extent. After that, it will be making you confused. So rather than that, trust on your skills, what you have developed so far, trust on your faith that why I should get this particular job, and focus upon those particular things. Always try to basically see what is your job description. Always try to read your job description and plan your questions and answers accordingly in your preparations. It will be one of the most beneficial things rather than going for this particular part. Interview questions, PDFs, downloading it from internet or asking someone to basically give you. It will work, but to a certain extent. It does have a very much of limitations, I would say. So I'll tell you, Regex, basically what happens is in your SOC, you are collecting data from everywhere, right? And the thing is, when you do collect data from everywhere, it becomes very tricky for you in order to find out something specific into your systems. Let's say in your organization, there will be 1,000 PCs and lots of servers and all these particular things. Now, if I come and if I ask you that, give me those particular logs which are generating XYZ, for example, right? So in order to find that XYZ, what you have to do, you have to put up a search query, maybe in Splunk if you do have search process language, if you do have that IBM Curadar, you will put AQL, Arial query language. If you do have Sentinel, you will put KQL, Kusto query language. These are the syntax language every SIM tool use, right? But regex is one common thing which can help you to identify or detect as a pattern from your bulk data. Let's say if I want to pick up only a part from my bulk data, regex is going to basically help me a lot in order to find that specific things from that chunks of data which I'm having, right? So these are guys few pointers. And now I did there was one question which did ask platform practicing platforms. Of course, I will try to list up over here few of them. There are a lot of them, people might know more than me. There are lots of images on LinkedIn which will be telling you that 10 platform, 20 platforms. But the ones which I do regularly use, I will suggest these ones to you. There is Immersive Labs. Couple of you might know it because it's an underdog, right? Not everyone might know it, but it's an underdog. Immersive Labs is there. Try Hack Me is there. For a fresher to basically go for starting, I would suggest start with Try Hack Me. One of the best platforms ever I have seen, which is very fresher friendly. Like if you do have IT support job, you want to shift in SOC, start with Try Hack Me, right? Then there is this Blue Team Labs Online, BTLO we do call it, right? You do have this particular Vulnhub. If you are a red teamer, you can go for Vulnhub. You do have you do have Lots of platforms are there. So if I do basically think, Hack the Box is like one of the very good ones for scenario based. Like if you want to do some sort of forensic CTF or kind of thing, there are couple of scenarios, not lot of them, but yeah, it can help you up for there. It is like one of the gem of a kind of thing for people who are working in red team side. Hack the Box and Vulnab. You will learn a lot. There are lots of machines where you can practice upon. There is Cyber Defenders. You can check that. Let's Defend. So these are like few of the platforms which I have personally used, to be honest. Right. So these are like few of the practicing platforms. So this is guys like my idea how you should basically start for, like you should always go for the basics. Like it is to be said that if a building does have their base strong, the building is strong overall. So go for your basics, brush up your basics, no matter it takes more time, wait for it, brush up your basics, and then try to build upon these particular pointers which are going to help you up over there, right? And always your practices are more important. The more you practice, so it will be helping you a lot. So create a strategic approach kind of thing, I would say, which will be helping you in order to basically go for all these particular things, right? So one more point which I would like to add up over here when I said OS knowledge, right? So two of the must have things is basically OS knowledge plus some networking fundamental knowledge. So these two things I would say it's a must have. And apart from it, I already have added sim solutions. Like you should know what are these different sim solutions, what is difference between them. Try to compare it, but you should be a master of one. Like if you do ask me, I do know not all of them. I do know how it's working. I can basically take an entire session upon it. But the best ones which I have given my hands on is Splunk and IBM Curator. Right. So it's basically when I say you should master one, so that means you should have jack of all trades, but you should master the one, right? That kind of thing. So in and out of these particular tools, you should know if you are mastering them.